All right. Good afternoon, everybody. This is the Lehigh County Authority Board of Directors meeting of February 24th, 2025. This meeting is being recorded and will be available on the web. Let's see. Let's have a roll call with the Board of Directors.
Call of the board. Brian Noggle.
Here.
Here, Family.
Here.
Ted Lyons. Linda Rosenfeld. Here. Norma Cusick.
Here.
Kevin Baker. Jeff Morgan.
Here.
Sean Ziller.
Here.
Mark Remis. All right, and so we have 6 board members present, and I believe iPad 4 that's coming into the meeting is Ted, just in time. Ted, can you give us a sound check? Let us know you're here.
Sound check, sound check.
All right, Ted is here, so we have 7 board members present.
All right, great. All right, the packets were distributed to the Board of Directors in advance of this meeting electronically and hard copy, and is available on the web. We'll begin by reviewing the agenda and any need for executive sessions.
We have no additions or changes to the agenda today, and no executive sessions.
I believe the financial report was revised and just redistributed, correct?
The financial report was distributed with the packet. It's the presentation that has a couple of revisions in it that we'll see when we come to that item.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, anything else?
That's it.
All right, then we review the minutes of the meeting from February 10th and seeking approval of those minutes.
So I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as presented in the packet.
And I will.
All right, motion made by Jeff, and seconded by Sean. Are there any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, I was getting an echo feedback there. Is that clear up?
I think that's clear enough. Maybe we should just do that vote again to be sure we got it.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Ayes have it. All right, moving on. Now we open up the meeting to any comments from the public on any items that are not on the agenda. Anybody?
No, thank you, Brian.
Yeah,
Jenny.
thank you.
All right, no comments? All right, then we move on to action and discussion items. We have 3 items under finance and administration. The first is the Board of Directors election of officers. I had asked Norma to head the nominating committee. Does the nominating committee have any report to make?
Okay, well, I'd like to make the following nominations. For Chair, Amir Family, Vice Chair, Jeff Morgan, for Treasurer, Ted Lyons, for Secretary, Linda Rosenfeld, for Assistant Treasurer, Kevin Bacon, and Assistant Secretary, Norma Cusick.
All right. So are there any further nominations from the Board of Directors? All right, hearing none. You have heard the report from the nominating committee, Norma, and we have 1 position for each of the officers, and I'd like a motion to elect each nominee to the office for which they were nominated.
I would like to make that motion.
Looking for a second.
Second, Ted.
All right, motion made by Norma and seconded by Ted, sorry. Let's see. So, all in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? The motion is passed. And for clarity, Amir will be the new chair starting March 1st. Jeff, the vice chair. Kevin, assistant treasurer. Linda, secretary. Norma, assistant secretary. And Ted, treasurer. So Kevin was assistant treasurer, sorry. All right. That concludes that part of the agenda. Any questions? I think I got that somewhat right. All right. Moving on then, the agenda, we have suburban water facilities, SCADA system upgrade, seeking approval, the yellow documents within the board package, digital board packet pages 6 to 9.
All right, and for this one, we'll have Chris Mon provide the overview.
Thanks. So we're in our final year of our suburban SCADA project, and we're looking for approval for funding for this final year. A little bit of background. The project has been focused on upgrading the SCADA system for 42 of the remote facilities in the suburban division, covering both water and wastewater facilities. As I mentioned, this is the final year of the project that began in 2022. The project initially was phased by priority, determined strictly by LCA staff and Keystone Engineering, remoteness of facilities and system issues that we were up against. And I will say over the course of the project itself, over the 4 years, we have reevaluated every year to make sure they were on process and on task with systems that needed to be updated as quickly as possible. Some of the operational efficiencies that we've achieved since 2022, and again, not all of them, but this is just some of the ones that really seem to help our guys. We've been able to decrease drive times, which in turn reduces the usage on vehicles. Our guys are now able to access the systems remotely with some secure connections to the back end of our buildings here. We were able to reduce oil advisories and improve system compliance for a lot of the more remote stations. Excuse me. For some of the other project achievements, Keystone Engineering, OCC, and LCA have been working together, and we are well ahead of schedule. And like I mentioned earlier, the project has been modified over the course based on priorities that have arisen in the field. The thing that I think I appreciate the most, and a lot of the guys appreciate most, is the standardization of all of our remote systems now. So when you log into any one of our remote systems, you're able to navigate it without any sort of extra formal training. Project status 1, 2, and 3 are complete. Phase 4 has begun already in 2025. Pending board approval, we will kind of get the funding in line for the rest of it. There is one note under future authorization with discussion with Andrew and the rest of the plants team. With the success that we've seen so far, there has been some discussion about adding in a few of the extra sites that were not included in the original project phasing. That being said, I want to hand it over to Liesl Gross for a moment to talk about some board disclosure.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, so this was included in the board memo and just wanted to make sure it was fully disclosed to the board that we've been operating and completing this project annually since it was originally authorized under the mistake, we'll say that this was funded through our operations budget. And as you know, through our conversation about the new delegation resolution that we did in January, operational costs were being administratively approved as long as they were in the budget. Now we've changed that, and by virtue of changing that, this one popped out to us as something that we needed to bring to the board, and that's how we discovered that we had that error in our system, that we were characterizing this as operations and approving them administratively. So with the process improvement came a little bit of a discovery of the mistake that was made, and wanted to disclose that to the board that phase 2 and 3, we had expenses paid to Keystone for work that has already been completed in the amounts that are shown here in the board memo, and those were done without board authorization. So I think it's in the past. It's 2 years prior, over the last 2 years that this has occurred. but wanted the board to be aware, and if there's any action or for the record type comment that we wanted to make, I wanted to make sure it was out there for the board. And then moving forward, we're back on track and having everything characterized properly as capital. And that's why we're here today seeking the approval for the professional services authorization for Keystone. And turn it back to you, Chris, just to go over the authorization itself.
Sure. And the authorization will be for the final year of the project, and it includes having Keystone in monthly for project management meetings here in the office. They will and are still designing all of the SCADA blocks and systems and screens for us for the field use. They are assisting us in the management of the physical construction of the new stations in conjunction with OCC. And they are continuing to support us in a kind of punch list as items come up support manner as well. So based on that, we're looking for approval of a total for this authorization of $393,975.00 in conjunction with prior authorizations. This brings the total project to date of just over $5 million.
And the PSA for Keystone.
Yeah, and the PSA for Keystone is specifically for $368,975.
All right, thank you, Chris. Are there any board questions?
Yeah, Brian, I do. This is Sean. I know this is an ongoing project, and I'm sure we touched on it before, but obviously operational efficiency is achieved. There's a significant number there, I think, which are directly beneficial to the LCA operation and then outwardly to the public. But maybe specifically for the reduction in oil advisories, maybe just if you could just talk to that a little bit and the success there through the use of this.
Sure. I believe I heard you were looking for some more information related to that specifically. We have a few of our remote stations that have a very short time window for us to be able to respond to issues. And in the previous system that we had, the alarming system was not nearly as robust or stout. And the access to system controls internally to that station, Sean, was also not nearly as robust or stout. So what happens now is our guys are able to get texts immediately at the sign of low pressure warnings or tank issues. And it allows our guys to jump online, quickly log into the remote systems and, adjust stuff if they can, or if not, they can actually lock the station down to prevent any sort of drainage and then subsequently keeping our systems pressurized to make sure we don't get any sort of boil waters in those scenarios. Excuse me.
Can I ask clarification, Chris, that in the past, the staff actually had to travel to the site to make those adjustments?
Correct. And that's one of the furthest stations that we visit. It is on a sunny summer afternoon. It's a 45-minute drive, assuming no traffic, assuming, no weather. And that now allows our guys to do it from the comfort of their home.
And obviously that directly, if you're spending time as an employee driving to the plant, or the site and doing the work, that's just, additional, I would assume, overtime cost and the accrual there versus, reduced expenses and being able to manage it remotely.
Yeah, it does. There's still the call out costs as per the contract that we have with our union up there. But it does definitely reduce the amount of call-ins. When I say ins, I'm doing air quotes, Sean. I know you can't see my hands. But actually into the building and then hopping in a vehicle and driving out. So yes, it has reduced our in-field time greatly.
Thank you.
Any other board questions?
Ryan, not a question, just a comment. I've got a lot of experience with SCADA, and it's an invaluable system. I think Chris is just scratching on the surface of all the things it can do, especially at the plants and the data it collects there and the remote monitoring at the stations and everything. We actually had a situation where the data from the SCADA system helped us prove that we did not have an effluent violation, and it was a lab error. So, there's not getting into all the details. It's just an invaluable system. So,
Thank you.
Thank you. I have a question. There's 3 additional LCA suburban wastewater facilities that are being considered for SCADA. Why weren't they included in the first batch or the 4 phases? And are there more beyond those 3 that could eventually be included?
The 3 stations that were not included initially are fairly new. So we were confident with the robustness of their operations and how they were able to be operated remotely and accessed. What we're coming up against is the concern of having 3 disparate systems now that our guys will have to hop back and forth between 2 different operating systems to control or manage. Once we get these final 3 in, everything will be on the new software called Ignition. There may be smaller well stations in the future, but the size and scope of those can be handled internally through the operational team and our SCADA staff.
Okay, thanks, Chris. Any other questions? Okay, as a reminder, we have before us for the suburban water and wastewater SCADA upgrades, a capital project authorization amendment, and for a total amount of $393,975. That includes a professional services authorization to Keystone Engineering for $368,975. Are there any questions? I need a motion to that effect.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Norma and seconded by Jeff, I think.
Yes.
All right. Any questions? All right. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you very much, Chris. That's been a great system. All right, moving on then. We have an emergency declaration, Suburban Division water main replacement, seeking approval, blue document within the board packages, and digital board packet pages, page 10.
We'll turn that back to Chris.
Thank you, Lisa. So we're going to talk about an emergency main repair on Nursery Street in Fogelsville. Anybody familiar with the area? It is just off of Main Street, and it's one of the new construction sites that is being developed up behind the Fogelsville Hotel. So if you were to go up there to the stop sign on Main Street, make a right, it takes you up towards Sipesville. This is all that new development up on the right. On Tuesday, February 4th, at approximately 10:30 in the morning, one of our internal inspectors was on site overseeing stormwater line work that Dirtworks, one of our vendors, is using out there. During the excavation, they exposed an 8-inch main and noticed that it was leaking. So our inspector went over and did some inspecting on it, took some photos, and realized that there was a ton of pitting and delamination of the pipe itself. They were able to repair it on site using a wraparound clamp just to kind of keep it in tune, but it made our on-site inspector a little bit nervous, so they called out field services to do some more inspection. The field service team went out and did some potholing with one of our hydro excavation machines, and what that is it's a high-pressure water gun with a vacuum. It's kind of a non-disturbing type of excavation, and we plugged out 4 other spots in a 300-foot area and realized that it was equally as bad or worse in those spots as well. So based on the findings, management recommended that we replace a full valve-to-valve section of 800 feet to make sure that this system would be able to support the new development going in. It would maintain high-quality water for our guys. It would reduce the risk of leaks in the future and any of the liabilities that can come along with that as well. We pulled in one of our close vendors, Shoreman Excavating, to do a walk-by with us as well. And after they did their walkthrough and we showed them what we were seeing, they agreed. And they gave us a quote of $270,000 to $300,000 roughly to do the full 800-foot replacement. That's including all tie-ins back to the customers that have already been connected and all the valving. Bless you, Lisa. LCA internal staff finalized the plans, and the project was put into place once we had executive approval for this project as well. It should be wrapped up this week, and that is back total live online. All of the testing and verifying will be done. So, due to the sensitive nature of this repair, the emergency was declared administratively on February 5th by LESL, and we're asking the board to approve this declaration retroactively to February 5th to cover expenses already incurred as a result of this emergency. and allowing us to waive the standard purchasing guidelines as a result.
Okay, any questions? The board?
Is this a multi-layer pipe which has caused delamination?
So it was a cast, but what we've noticed, I mean, immediately as we did the excavation, my guys said it was buried in clay. They didn't do any sort of stone bed or wrap in stone, so it was directly in soaking water, clay wet water, for the last 22 years. It wasn't one of ours, it's part of a project. So just based on the way it was installed initially, we feel is the reason for the failure.
When you say delamination, to me, delamination is there is different layers that are separate.
Well,
It's a
so
cast iron.
what's happening is it's rusting and peeling off.
So it's a rust and peeling, okay.
Yeah, and it's just kind of coming off in chunks, almost like a layer cake, it looks like, just sections.
And how do we know that there are other pipes beyond those two valves that they are not having the same issue?
Well, we don't. This was the section that's currently being worked on, and this 800-foot section is directly connected to the new construction. And with all of the vehicles and construction and work being done in the area, we felt that it was safest to, redo this whole 800-foot section right now. If something happens in the future, they are doing more work upstream. My guys will go in and we'll check and verify. As this project grows, we will be tapping back into these new other older mains as well.
How old are these pipe?
These are young. They're only 20, 25 years old. And we believe they were installed improperly.
So it's not a material failure, it is the installation failure.
I believe so.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Other board questions?
Yeah, just to understand a process question. So they're installing a sewer line or a storm sewer.
Yeah.
So LCA had an inspector out there because they were working close to the water line, or that's why? Because obviously we don't own any storm sewers, right? So,
Right. It was a construction project. We knew that they were going to be near our stuff. So we just always kind of have someone on board there. Yeah.
Lots of people don't do that.
Yeah. Kudos to the inspection team that we have here. They're both great guys.
For sure. Any other questions from the board? All right, then we have before us a emergency authorization, retroactive emergency authorization from February 5th for the emergency repair on Nursery Street in Fogelsville for up to $300,000. Chris, do you feel that'll cover it all, or do you need a contingency, or $300,000 be enough?
I think that should be fine, Brian.
Okay, so we're for a total amount of anything less than $300,000. Do I have a motion and a second for that?
I'll make the motion. This is Norma.
And I'll second. This is Sean.
All right, motion made by Norma and seconded by Sean. Any further questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, go ahead.
at least I'd like to note that Kevin Baker has joined us just now. And also typically for our emergency authorizations, while we list the dollar amount, we do not limit the expense to that dollar amount because we need to fully complete the job. I just wanted to make that clarification, if that's all right with Norma and Sean.
Fine by me.
That's fine with me.
Okay, then we have stricken the dollar limit from that. Okay. All right, with those changes, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed?
I'm just gonna abstain.
All right. All right, the ayes have it. Thank you very much. Okay, nothing underwater, nothing under wastewater. Moving on to monthly financial review for the December 2024 report, which was attached. It was digital board packet pages 11 to 23, and it's the white documents within our board packet.
Ed, you're up. Comments you want to make before I put the presentation up, or you could?
You can put it up, I'll talk. Basically, you got the pack early in the week. After we sent the pack out, I noticed an issue with suburban wastewater. More specifically, there was a little bit of an adjustment in revenue that should not have been made. So we actually added revenue back to wastewater, and it affected, obviously, it'll affect the net income and a line item on the cash flow. So that'll be different than what's in the pack. What we'll do is we'll do the PowerPoint today, and then I'll send out a revised pack for your reference after we're done today. But suburban wastewater is the only one affected. So essentially, if you look at the pack, you'll see the statements for wastewater a little bit different because of that revenue. You'll also see the monthly scorecard different because instead of 5 points, wastewater has 10. So we get into where we are in December. Likely, I would like to just forego the discussion on the month. We're near the end of February. We're 2 months past that. I think I want to focus, or we should focus more on what happened year to date and where we are with respect to budget. So if you look at the year to date against Q4 forecast for both the income statement and cash flow, you kind of see suburban water was positive, wastewater was negative, city division was healthy positive. With respect to forecast, suburban water was down just a little bit, wastewater was up, city division was up, and overall for LCA we're up. So that's good. Cash flow statement, water was down mostly because of slightly higher capital and some unfavorable working capital movements. We can see the graphs later. Wastewater was down a little bit. City was up by $5.4 million. So overall, LCA finished on the positive side with respect to forecast year to date. So this is a table comparing where we finished the year against budget. Suburban water was positive, wastewater was negative, city was again healthy positive. It's nice to be able to say that compared to budget, we finished positive against on the income side for all three funds and in total for LCA. On the cash flow statements compared to budget, all positives and only one unfavorable variance. That would be in the suburban water side. Again, slightly higher capital. Wastewater was good, city was good. Well, city was going to be good because we had already had the effect of 3 years of borrowing being combined into the borrowing period versus a 1 year. So we've talked about that through the year. So compared to budget, I think it's good.
My full year is from what time to what time?
January 1 to December 31st. For 2020.
So the total revenue was $18 million.
Total income was $18 million.
And those budget is snapshot 0 or snapshot 3 or 4?
I'm sorry.
Snapshot, that means, so when you put a budget, you have every quarter you make the adjustment of the budget. So when I talk a snapshot 0, it means that
so this would be the budget number that you approved in October 23.
okay, so this is the snapshot 0 in the 16.
Right. Yeah, so essentially for the year, we made 18.5 versus a budget that we came into the year with a 15.2.
Thank you.
Sure. So again, positive on the income side, positive on the cash flow side. In total, this is again, the city, we talked about the favorable variance, and we have a table that will show you how we did better anyway. So we can go on to the graphs. So I won't spend a lot of time on the forecast variances. You've seen them. I think we'll focus more time and attention on the income for the full year versus budget. And you see that we're $595,000 favorable to budget on the income side. Actually, revenue was down just a little bit in total, but we made up for it in lower operating expenses. Throughout the year, pretty much across all three funds, we had better performance on our invested balances, so that helped us with the favorable variance there. And on the interest side, we were a little bit unfavorable based on the higher principal withdrawing that we took down this year. So all in all, though, still finished better than budget. Cash flows, we were off the forecast. On the budget side, we're down a little bit. Most of that is in cash from operations. That's due to slightly unfavorable working capital changes. And basically what that is we had X dollars of revenue, and the timing of the receipts and payments was a little bit different than what we put on the books in revenue on an accrual basis. Debt service and financing, we saved some. CapEx was up a little bit, and investments were, again, invested balances earned more. So we're on the favorable side altogether, because of the cash from operations, the working capital effects were down in total, but just some of the key metrics. 2.36 debt service coverage ratio. That's obviously beating the budget that we had for the year and also better than the target. And this one came in pretty much close to what we forecasted. So I was pretty happy with that one. Operating ratio was 1.22, again, better than the budget, better than our target. And that was spot on to what we forecast. I guess we got the forecast right on this one. Days cash on hand, 302 almost against 180, so that's good. This one, we had a little bit less cash balance on hand, but still pretty good, so. Wastewater, year-to-date income was, compared to forecast, was positive. You can see the top is favorable variances across all the categories. I go down to the bottom and compare it to actuals versus budget. You're $804,000 favorable. Again, every category was favorable. Your operating revenue was better. Operating expenses were lower. Got better interest income, and interest expense was on the favorable side as well. So that was good push from all of them. On cash flows, you can see that against the forecast, we were down by 189,000. That was mostly in the debt service and financing arena. Full year, we're up by $7.4 million. And you can see the variances there. The categories were better in cash from operations. In this particular fund, we had a little bit more positive working capital effect, meaning we got more revenue than we put on the books, and we paid less in expenses than we put on the books in terms of cash flows. Debt service was better. CapEx was lower by 1.8 million, and our invested balances, again, were on the positive side with respect to interest income. So metrics for wastewater, 2.09, which was below the 4.67 that we budgeted. It's above the 1.20. Keep in mind on wastewater at we started to think about borrowing that we really didn't execute till January. In the forecast and in the budget, we had some money budgeted that we didn't partake of until this year. Operating ratio, we had budgeted 0.94, we finished at 0.94. Actually, we finished better than we forecasted. So we're below target coming into the year. We kind of settled that right where we budgeted. So days cash on hand, 424, that's good. And that beat where we thought we would be, and is obviously well above the 180 that we require. So City division, on the income side, against forecast, we were favorable across all the categories to the tune of $4.6 million. Against budget, $1.8 million. Most of that's sitting in operating revenue. Although operating expenses aided by being down, and then the non-operating expenses was basically as a result of the higher fees, we're taking 3 years versus loan versus 1 year. Interest expense pushed us back up a bit on that. Cash flows, $5.3 million favorable to forecast. $56 million favorable, which is the effect of that borrowing. But from a revenue standpoint, we were favorable from a debt service and financing perspective. We had favorable results. CAPEX was almost 14 million lower, and the investing and other was basically unfavorable due to the loan fees. There's the statement, taking the city and adjusting it as all, taking the budget and adjusting it for what we really borrowed. I guess the good news is if you look at the fund net cash flow, adjusted budget would be $49 million. We still finished $10 million against that. And a lot of that is coming from operating revenues. In operating expenses. So from an operating standpoint, we would have done better anyway. And we did. Metrics, 2.62 in terms of coverage. That's beaten budget, beaten target, beaten forecast too. 2.02 in operating ratio, that's better than budget and target and better than what we thought we'd finish. 259.7 is still good against the target, down a little bit from where we thought. I've got to be honest with you. It's probably a little bit out in left field for 439. I don't know how I got that much. So this is what I was talking about before. The PAC says suburban wastewater is 5. There, it's really 10, and you can see the effect of that additional revenue playing into 5 more, I'll call it, green boxes. So suburban water finished at 10, suburban wastewater also at 10, and city at 13. So really not bad. Just a couple points here. We finished the year with a favorable variance to forecasted total for net income and cash flows. That was good. Suburban water was down a little bit on net income and cash flows. Wastewater was a little bit off in cash flows. I think the better highlights was compared to budget for the year, net income was higher for all 3 funds. Cash flows were slightly down on water, but higher in wastewater and city. It's good to say all debt service coverage ratios beat covenants, days cash on hand are all good. CAPEX was 15.2 million, lower than budget of $51.2 million.
If you look at your SG&A budget versus what you end up, can you give us the number?
So basically, operating expenses compared to budget, which we would call SG&A, come in, I want to say a couple percentage points lower than we budgeted. We had effects of slightly higher revenues and lower operating expenses in total, better across all 3 funds.
Your expenses basically are SG&A?
I wouldn't call it SG&A. I would call that a combination of operations and administrative. I would have to pull out just the administrative portion to get at what I think you're looking for.
So in your budget, you don't separate SG&A as a line?
No, because we build that into total operating expenses.
But operation versus people are different, right?
Yeah,
I mean, total is the same. It's a collective what your expenses are.
You are correct. See, everything that we do is built into what we call total operating expenses. When we get into the new munis, I'd like to be able to pull out what the administrative portion is, which is what I think you're looking for, so that we could look at operations being just his guys and Andrew's people and the cost of running the facilities and tracking down maintenance. And then be able to also segregate what we're doing with respect to staff internally and support for the departments. It's really not separated now. Because the way we charge, the way that we cost in, it gets comped into operations. Hopefully, we're segregating that as we move on.
Because if you look at, we had about 10, 15 opening, right? So that 10 and 15 opening has to lower your SG&A number quite a bit, right? So when
Yes.
you're lumping up together, you don't know whether your operation cost was higher and you borrow it from your SG&A or not.
Yeah,
You follow what I'm saying? So you don't know your total operational cost.
not pure operations, yes.
So
You're
that's
spot on.
important. So that's important. One knows what your operational cost is versus what your SG&A is. And lumping together, it dilutes the effect of how we're operating.
I think that's a very fair statement, which is why we want to segregate. Which is why one of the things that we talked about when we said we're going to go to new units was the departmentalization of costs, so that we can actually do that segregation, which we cannot do now.
Hopefully about mid-year.
Well, yeah, considering that's when we expect to
Chris
go live.
Yeah, if I could just add in, this is kind of at a gross high level.
Sure.
In the pack that you have, the numbers are small on the page, but we do have under operating expenses, one line for all of personnel and one line for all shared services,
Yes.
general and administrative. So you can see, if you're familiar with the way the statement is structured, our 2024 total for personnel was 17.8 million. And our budget was 20 million.
Okay.
So that's in,
You have
that's in
that.
there. It's just
Yeah,
not broken out.
The personnel is broken out, but you're in the same boat that I'm in. I would love to be able to say, what is the pure operating side and what is the staff side of it? So, because that's an important number for me as well. So.
A bunch of the staff are capitalized on
Correct.
on the project that we have.
Yeah. We just have over a period of time, I've just clumped
Okay.
everything into operations, and as we get into the new units, I would like to segregate that a whole lot.
Okay, thank you. Good
I
job.
have a question. So on CapEx, the 15 million,
15 million?
is that one main project, a bunch of projects with a little bit less spending?
It's a
or-
bunch of projects except one of the larger ones in there that obviously didn't get executed was the lead service line replacement. So that was a $5 million
Okay.
loss to start with in the city division.
Okay.
Just not being able to execute that project because of all the things that we talked about with respect to grants and vests. So that was a big hitter. I mean, that you started off with 5 million off to begin with.
Brian, I have a comment. Ted here.
Go ahead, Ted.
There's a certain virtue in not dumping everything into overhead and then operations. If you can direct cost your overhead as much as possible to operations, it helps you really figure out where the overhead is spending its time and effort. If you go too far the other way, you end up with a big number. You're not quite sure what's all happening there. So we don't want to go too far. Well, it'd be nice to have both. But in my opinion, you don't want to go too far in just lumping SG&A into a big pot and not really knowing where those efforts are ending up in terms of operations. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Is that through project accounting that would resolve what Ted is trying to say?
No, it wouldn't necessarily be project accounting. It's the way that we charge in labor, charge in overhead. It gets really put into, it gets direct charge to the operating box, so to speak, in the funds. So the attempt will be to make it stop somewhere else first before we get there.
Okay, anything further, Ted?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, Ed, how about you? Anything more?
No, I think that's it, right? Now, like I said, this is all preliminary. While we held the books open for a long period of time to make sure that we captured all the things that feed its way into 2024 that showed up in January. There's still an audit coming up, which is going to start rolling big time in 17th of March, which is when I expect to see their smiling faces. Some things could change, but I think at this point in time, we've captured the essence of where I think we really are right now. So.
Okay, thanks, Ed.
Mm-hmm.
All right, any questions? All right, moving on, then we have item number 8 on the agenda, monthly system operations overview. Digital board packet pages 24 to 26. January report was attached. It is the white documents within your board package.
All right, we'll jump into the January 2025 operations report. The first page is safety incidents, and I'm happy to report in January 2025, there were no safety incidents. So we'll switch on over to the next page, which is going to be our water production and wastewater treatment. Overall, we're pretty in line with what we typically see during the winter months, where production is down a little bit. Going down to Klein's Island, we were discharging right around 32 million gallons per day. Tying that into precipitation, we had 0.86 inches of either rain or snow. However, I will mention that we are still within a drought watch within the Lehigh Valley. Going down to SSOs, there were no bypasses, first of all, but there was one SSO on Greenleaf Street, and that was due to a grease blockage within the sewer line. No emergency declarations and permit compliance. We will switch on over to the last page, and once again, I'm happy to report there was only one incident, and that was at Heidelberg Heights. That was a monthly average ammonia exceedance. With a lot of the cold weather that we have, we get a lot of freezing that happens at that facility, and it sort of disrupts our cycling of the SBRs. And because of that, we sort of struggled to keep up with treatment at that facility. So we were only slightly over the monthly concentration, but still we had a permit exceedance. But that was the only one in any of our facilities. And for Sand Spring, no permit exceedances. And I think I've probably been able to say that twice in the past 3 years. So that's very, very delightful to have to say. Other than that, I would be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thanks, Andrew. Congratulations on those numbers. All right, moving on now to staff comments.
Yes, I have two items. First of all, just a reminder to the board or notice to the board that on Wednesday this week, the County Board of Commissioners will be taking action on reappointments of Linda Rosenfeld and Norma Cusick, as well as, we believe, appointing a new board member, Peter Dent, who happens to be witnessing this great board meeting today. So, hi, Peter. And so that's Wednesday at 7 p.m. and that's happening. You can join online if you want to view the meeting with the Board of Commissioners for the county. The other item that I have is an email that I had forwarded to you from a customer, specifically a formal complaint about a billing discrepancy. I just wanted to make sure the board was aware that we received this and the staff is taking action to work to resolve it. There's a couple different components of the concern. At the core of the concern is a very high bill, almost 200,000 gallons of water that was recorded on the water meter during a 3-month period when the property was vacant for most of that time period. And certainly that's creating quite an issue because of the size then of that water and sewer bill. This is located in Allentown. There's also some concern about the treatment that the customer received from our staff, which we're investigating internally as well. Regarding the high bill, just wanted to make the board aware that I am in contact and having quite a bit of communication with this customer to understand their usage pattern. Turns out that they were actually in the property for periods of time that coincide with the high usage. They just can't really identify where there may have been a leak, a leaky toilet flap or something of that nature that occurred. And so it's really just a matter of coming to an agreement on how we're going to handle the bill. And that's a conversation that is ongoing at this moment. So the staff who have worked with this customer have stated that the communication has been pleasant and professional on both sides. The customer has not been difficult to talk to. So I think the feeling is that the customer is just really upset about the high bill. And we'll try to work on a resolution to that. And because it was addressed to the board as a formal complaint, I wanted to give that detail to the board. If there's any questions, happy to try to answer them. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Solicitor comments?
No comments, thank you, Brian.
Public comments on any items whatsoever?
No, thank you, Brian.
Yep, no comments. Thank you.
All right, thanks for being here. Board member comments?
I have a comment. Brian, it has been a pleasure and an honor to have served with you for the last 15 years. And I'm really, really sorry you're not staying on the board. I'm going to miss you.
And I'll miss you too. Thank you. And I miss everybody. You're breaking into my swan song statement here. So.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. My apologies, Brian.
Before I get into that, the organization has received another award, and I wanted to make sure that everybody was aware that the Government Finance Officers Association has awarded LCA a Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting for its annual comprehensive financial report for the fiscal year ended December 31st, 2023. This is an honor that I've been happy to announce every year for the last several years. Ed, can you tell me how many years you've had this now?
Oh my gosh, I'm here going on 10, and it's been 10 consecutive. I would have to say almost 17, 18, maybe even longer than that. It's been nonstop for a long period of time.
And this is significant because the GFOA established this certificate for financial reporting back in 1945. And it's made to encourage and assist state and local governments to go beyond the minimum requirements of generally accepted accounting principles to prepare annual comprehensive financial reports that evidence the spirit of transparency and full disclosure. That's significant. It's the highest form of recognition in government accounting and financial reporting. Congratulations to you and the team that I know has to be behind you and with you to get that achievement for all these years. So again, congratulations.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. So for me, I think it's been 16 years on the board. I did not seek reappointment, and I'm glad that Linda is going to be able to hopefully stay on and get some new board members. it's been an honor for me to serve with LCA and to know all of you and appreciate the professionalism and the friendship that you've shown the board and myself. And you all bunch that together makes a great organization, every single one of you. So I think I've been the chairman. I'm trying to figure out if I was board chairman for the last 10 years or 10 years probably. I don't know. But happy to turn that over to Amir. So congratulations to the new slate of officers and wish you all much success. So with that, any other board member comments?
Yeah, Ted here. I'd like to chime in and second the comments made about you, Brian. You've done a great job. You're level-headed, steady, calming influence, and you're to be commended. Amir has a steep slope to climb, I think, to equal your performance, and it's been a real pleasure knowing you, and best of luck in your future endeavors.
Thank you. Thank you all. All right. With that,
Brian, I'm gonna chime in as well. I think you've been chairman the entire time I've been on the board. So for me, you are the chairman with capital T and capital C. And that's how I see you, kind of. You know, it's this very level influence on all the proceedings here. The good news is you always get the sequence right, which is it's a confusing sequence of operations that we have to go through, and it's very impressive how you navigate that without even it never goes wrong. Let's put it that way. So we're certainly going to miss you, and thanks. And at one point, you had us all off in a hotel trying to redirect us into a different direction. So you've been a far-sighted chairman at the same time, and certainly appreciated, both personally and professionally. So all the best for the future.
thank you very much. All right. Thanks, everybody. And with that, we are adjourned. Go ahead.
Obviously, we all appreciate 15 years of your services to LCA. LCA has benefited obviously from your engineering and project management that you had from your previous job, and also your leadership through the somewhat difficult times that LCA has gone through in the last 10 years. We definitely will miss you, but we're going to stay connected. We're wishing that to be able to see your granddaughter playing for United States women's soccer team in the upcoming World Cup. So we will be all cheering for her for sure from here in LCA.
Yeah.
All right.
Brian, I'll be quick. So just my brief comments. Been to a lot of meetings in the last 33 years, and you've done an outstanding job as chairman. I've got a lot of benchmarks to compare you to. So you're definitely in the top 3, maybe number 1. So congrats.
And all I'll say is thank you, Brian. Everybody else, I think, kind of stole the words right out of my mouth. But thank you. It's been a pleasure, and I hope you enjoy the future.
Good. Thank you very much.
Brian,
Yep.
etc. I'll make it very short, etc. Everything it's been a great, I've been here a little over 10 years, and the time that you've been chair has been a rough couple years in there, and you handled it beautifully. So thank you very much.
No, you're welcome. Thanks, everybody. And good luck to everybody for the future endeavors. Take care. Right.
Thank you.
We are adjourned. Thank you.
Bye-bye.